During his recent Asia trip, President Trump seemed to get along well with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Mr. Trump asked Xi to put more pressure on North Korea to end its ballistic missile program. And one issue that wasn't discussed, at least publicly, was China's apparent crackdown on people of faith. In one Chinese province, Christians are being forced to replace religious posters with images of President Xi. And now an American missionary says that he's been denied entrance to China for the first time in 31 years. Well, Patrick Klein is with Vision Beyond Borders. He joins us now from Hong Kong. Patrick, we remember back in 2008 during the Beijing Olympics, you were prevented from bringing Bibles into China, but you were still allowed to enter the country at that time. Tell us what happened this time.
Well, I was actually going across the border last Saturday. I had 22 pastor study Bibles in Chinese. And when I got up to the counter, the lady saw that I had made many trips into China. And it's never been a problem before, but she saw I had many chops in my passport. And so she looked down and she saw I had a suitcase next to me. And so she called over the leaders. I was then taken to an interrogation room and held for 2.5 hours. I was questioned why I was bringing Bibles into China. I said I brought Bibles to help the people that they'd asked, pastors had asked for Bibles 20 years ago. And I just came to bring Bibles. They looked through the Bibles. They said the paper quality was not good enough. And they actually held me for 2.5 hours. At one point, I had 8 military police surrounding me to keep me from running away, I guess. But just for bringing Bibles, 22 Bibles in the country, and then my visa was canceled and the Bibles were confiscated.
I guess you need better paper there, Bibles with better paper, Patrick. Sure. That's a good one. I haven't heard that one before. Did you say to them, I thought you had religious freedom in China? What did they say?
I did say that, and they said, well, you're not allowed to bring Bibles into China. I said, where is it written? There's nothing saying that I can't bring them in. It doesn't say that in customs. I said, it says I can't bring ammunition and other things, drugs in, but it doesn't say I can't bring Bibles. And they said, well, you ought to know better than this. You are not allowed back in China. We're canceling your visa.
Well, I know you're not alone. I understand the same thing has happened to other Christian workers. Tell us what's going on.
Well, since January 1, 2017, we've had over 20 couriers actually stopped at the border and their visas have been canceled. Some of them, Gary, it's a first trip into China. And I actually heard about one man, American man, that was denied entrance last week. Also, he only had 4 Bibles. And so we're seeing a crackdown. It's like they don't want Bibles brought in from the outside. I asked him, I said, if you don't allow Bibles, where do people get Bibles? They said, well, you can go to the bookstore and you can buy them. I said, I've been to the bookstores. I have not seen Bibles available. And they said, well, you're just not looking in the right places. And anytime I went to ask questions, they'd say, be quiet, don't ask questions. And it was kind of interesting because they were all kind of really puffed up around me, but when they were off by themselves, they're all laughing and joking about it. So it seems like a real crackdown and just real oppression of Christians and trying to keep Bibles from coming into China.
So you think it is part of a bigger crackdown against evangelism, missionary work in China. What is happening to others inside China, and what do you expect in the future?
Well, we've heard that any meetings with more than 10 people have to be approved by the government. We've even heard from some of our contacts inside that they have been threatened by the police that if they receive Bibles from foreigners, they will have big trouble from the government. So we're seeing it's really clamping down on the inside as well. They're trying to keep Bibles from coming in from the outside, but also clamping down on the inside. I think we're going to see the church have to go back underground in China, and I think it's going to get really worse.
Patrick, you say you've never experienced this in more than 30 years of traveling into China. Why now?
I think with this new leader, and he really looks up to Mao, Chairman Mao, and I think it's a step backwards for China. I think he's looking at really pressing in with Marxism and enforcing this control over people. And I think he feels threatened by the church because we know there's many more Christians than there are Communist Party members. And maybe he's afraid that the Christians are going to overthrow the government, which we know that's not the intention of Christians. We just want to serve the Lord Jesus Christ and serve God with all of our hearts. We're not trying to overthrow governments. A lot of times people become really good citizens when they become Christians. And they have compassion, they want to help people. And it seems sometimes that these governments feel threatened because Christians start doing the work that the government should be doing.
I know the Christians also pray for their government and their leaders. So what should our viewers do?
We ask that people really pray for China. Please pray for China. Take it seriously, because I think this could be a real repressive time for the church to have to really go underground. I mean, we've always seen God through persecution in a lot of places. The church grows even more, but we need people to really pray, and we need people to come help carry Bibles. If people would help us get more Bibles into China and just keep going in, and even if they get kicked out, at least people can see what's going on, and the Chinese government sees that the Christians in America are determined to help our Christian brothers and sisters in China.
And Patrick, I can't let you go without asking you about another country, Myanmar, Burma. And I know you've traveled there a lot. I even joined you once on a visit there. What do you make of the Pope's visit there? That's historic.
That Burma's going in a good direction. I think they're really changing. They're really opening up more and more. And I think we need to really be praying for them. I'm actually headed there in about a week, and we're going to have Christmas for about 400 orphans there in Burma.
That's great. And I know the Pope wants to show support and encouragement for Christians and the tiny Catholic community there. What about other Christians other than Catholics? How do they view the Pope's visit? Is it good for Burma, do they think?
I think it's good for Burma because it gives more exposure to what's going on in Burma, and even what's happened in the past with Christians being oppressed by the Burmese military. I think it's good. I think it'll put more spotlight on what's going on in the country of Burma and help the Christians in the long run.
And Pope Francis spoke out against the mistreatment of Rohingya ethnics. More than 600,000 have fled Burma because of government-backed violence there, and now they're refugees in Bangladesh. What can you tell us from your experience? Will this help or harm the Rohingya, him speaking out about it?
I think it will help them, but I kind of have mixed emotions. You know, there's some things that the Rohingyas have done to kind of provoke this whole thing with the Buddhists, and so we need to really be praying that God gives wisdom to the leaders how to walk through this thing, and you know, we want to make sure that the truth is known so people can make right decisions.